is an astrologer and truth teller. And I saw his video on my favorite uh, Facebook group, which is Bashar's
Mm.
channeling. And I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but Bashar is. Do you want to describe Bashar, Ray Ray, or shall I?
Well, he's out of this world. Let's just say that quite
Yes.
literally. He's a channeled entity that comes through some guy called Davalanka, who looks a bit like an ET himself.
He
Sorry,
does. He
but
does.
yeah, his teachings are really profound and have changed the lives of so many people over the last 30 or so years. To be honest, I think he is the best teacher out there. He's the
I do
one. I mean, there
too.
is no best teacher, obviously, but he's the best one for me. He resonates so much with me. Everything he says just clicks. And what I find really fascinating about him is a lot of people doubt whether he's real, whether it's just, dabbled, acting it out, so to speak. But he speaks so fast and answers the questions so fast. There's no hesitation in his words. There's no doubt in his words ever. And I think he even had his brain scanned on the documentary he did, by a neuroscientist, confirming that there is something happening in his brain that doesn't usually happen when he goes into that channeling state. So, yeah, he is the real deal.
Yeah, I believe so too. And it's fine if the fun thing is he could care less if anybody believes if he's real too. And
Oh,
he
yeah,
and he doesn't claim to be like a guru, like follow me, I know the way.
of
God,
course.
Bashar is just you can he wants everybody to be their own leader for their own
Yeah.
life. So, and I same, like everybody else, I could take a little bit from everybody, but
Mm.
makes me happy every time like if I'm feeling like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit not as happy as I always am. I'm like, ooh, let me see what's going on the Bashar channel on
Yeah.
Facebook. And then there's always something that reminds me that life is a lot happier than I'm making it in that instant.
Mm.
And that's what happened. That's how I found you. I was like, "Well, what's this video?" Then I was like, "I love him." So
Thanks.
yeah, so Ray Ray, I found him on the Bashar channel, and he was talking all about the Mandela effect. I would love to talk about that first.
Yeah, of course.
So my understanding of it is that I forgot, people remember things differently.
Mm.
But can you elaborate on it?
The memories of a lot of people collectively are different than it's almost as if the earth is shifting into two different versions of itself, and one group of people, not the earth, sorry, the population itself, it's splitting into two categories, and one group of people remember some things in the media, like Pikachu's tail being a different color, or the lyrics in a certain song being different, or the name of a TV show being slightly different. But other people are like, no, it's always been like that. What are you talking about? And there's this kind of debate on whether it's actually people just losing their memory, or whether we are actually shifting into different dimensions where things are slightly different. It's not so much as a big shift where you can tell, that the sky is green and trees are blue all of a sudden. Nothing like that. But it's just little minor things that are shifting. And some people now in this day and age, because our consciousness is expanding, there is an awakening going on. A lot of people are realizing they're more conscious, and they're seeing these changes. They're seeing us shifting into these different realities, and that's where the Mandela effect has come from. As we're becoming more conscious, we're realizing that we're also changing the past as well as the future, our potential
Right.
future, because it's not as if the people who, it's not as, what here's my take on it. It's not as if the people who haven't shifted, where they remember everything just being the same, it's not as if they're wrong, or it's not as if the other group are wrong either. It's just that the latter group have come into a different reality where their memories are different. They've
Right.
jumped to a different timelines, but they still have the memories of the previous timeline in their head. You see what I'm saying?
I
And
see.
that happens individually as well as collectively as well. And that's what I was discussing on the video, that you found.
Yeah. And,
How, yeah.
and why is it called Mandela?
It's called the Mandela Effect because the real first incidents that it happened collectively where a lot of people were like, whoa, wait a minute. That It was when Nelson Mandela apparently died in prison in something like 1981 or something. A lot of people remember that happening. But then he actually got released out of jail. I can't remember the exact dates because I don't really follow Nelson Mandela all his life. But a lot of people remember things being a lot different. A lot of people remember him dying and watching news reports of him dying in prison. And a lot of people just remember him coming out of jail. And that's where the confusion comes from. And that's why they call it the Mandela Effect,
Wow.
because of that incident.
And I find that a lot of people who have siblings, their siblings remember things differently. And I mean, my mother and I remember things completely differently. And so I think we're realizing that all over the place, but also,
Yeah.
and it's a healthy thing to learn to, I mean, life can be frustrating, and it's extra frustrating when you're talking to somebody who remembers things differently and you want them know that you're right, but it's like, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Like, everybody can be right. Like, just move on from here. Like, this person remembers this like this person remembers it like that. Like, let's take it from here and move forward. So I think that this concept for people to learn, I know for me, I mean, I just visited my mother and I had to like bite my tongue 1,000 times because she remembered things completely different and I was so
Mm,
angry. But I'm like, wait a minute, remembering the Mandela effect, I can just, it's such a relief to not hold on to those grievances because it's a losing battle. My number one goal is for me to be aligned with with myself and my most authentic self. And my most authentic self doesn't want to keep fighting my mother to remember something
yeah,
she doesn't
of course.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
well, there's a couple of things here that people need to like. If everyone understood the true structure of existence and how there is more than one reality, and ultimately everything has already happened because there is no linear time. Everything exists right now, and that just doesn't mean everything that's happened in your particular timeline. Everything in every potential timeline has already happened. So you can be at peace with your mother because even though her memories are different than yours, you're in different realities there. Even
right,
though you're talking to each other, you're co-creating a reality experience where your reality and her reality are meeting each other halfway. But every person is a reality unto themselves, and just because her reality, she's on a different timeline than you, obviously. That's why the memories are different.
right.
But also, what is memory? Bashar speaks about it all the time. What is memory really? If all things happen right now, it's not as if we're just remembering things. It's our way of connecting to other parallel versions of ourselves that are still experiencing those experiences. You get nostalgia when you listen to a song you used to love when you were a child, or watch a TV show. There's that feeling that you get, and that's because you're connecting to your childlike self, your child self, by
Right.
doing that. And that's what nostalgia is.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
there's
Yes.
been a study done too. Sorry, let me just continue.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a study done too, and I said this in the video. I don't know if you watched it all, but there's been many studies done on memory in general. And Dr. Joe Dispenza taught me this. He said that a few studies were done on people's memories, and they tested the memories and fact checked the memories with the person who they experimented on with their relatives to see if their memories were actually true or not. and up to 35 to 50% of their memories were false, were incorrect. So what does that tell you? Joe Dispenza and other scientists have come to the conclusion that people make stuff up to perpetuate their identity. In their mind, they make it up. But what if that's not even true? What if they've just shifted to another reality where those memories are false, but they still have the memories of their previous timeline between their ears? So it's not as if the memories are false, they're real on one level. But in this timeline, in this version of themselves, they've shifted to, it is false because it's not reflective of their past anymore. Because once you make a change, as Bashar says, it's a complete change, not just of the potential future, but also of the past. You change the past too when you change. And that's what we're beginning to understand. You know.
I agree with that because I used to smoke cigarettes years ago, and
Yeah.
I feel like I've never smoked cigarettes. And they
Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they say, first of all, they say in every 7 years all your cells change. So in
Mm,
that way, I have never smoked cigarettes, but I believe in my timeline I never smoked cigarettes because
that's great.
I have to really remember, like, I'm like, why do people smoke? Come on. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you used to, Jackie. Like, calm down. But it was a different timeline. But still, I don't want to be hypocritical. I want to be humble. But so yeah. So but I really believe that when you change wholly, and I love that, and that's why I think it's important to focus on our future selves and act as if what we want. And what Bashar says too that I love is that even if, all right, say I smoked and I said I'll like myself more when I don't smoke, that
Mm,
I can be perfect smoking and be perfect in a different way not smoking. So I'm never condemning the old version of me,
of
or
course, yeah.
right, or making the future version of me better. We're all perfect, but I want to always be well, I'm always perfect but different. But I like being different every day, like getting more and more open-minded and more authentically myself. Anyway, so I want to ask you two questions. And
Mm,
one is, so changing the past, how you put it, dissolving the illusions of our past.
mm.
Have you had to do that for yourself? Is there, you
Yeah,
don't,
yeah. I'll be honest. I mean, I've got no problem openly admitting this that I was a drug addict. I'm 34 now. And from the age of 14 to 23, I was taking cocaine. I was on ecstasy. I was drinking like 3, 4 times a week. I was just a mess. And I actually had a divine experience in December 2010. Sorry, January 2010, that completely transformed me overnight. And I woke up a different version of myself. I jumped timelines in that night. And I've never had a craving for any drug since. I'm being clean almost 12 years. I jumped. Bashar calls that the 13th step, doesn't he?
right.
Where it feels as if you never had those addictions, because in this timeline now, I never had. Like you just said, it feels as if you've never smoked. And the same with me. When I think of that version of myself in that other timeline, it feels like someone else's memories. It doesn't even feel like me. It feels like I'm watching somebody else go through that. And that's how you make a complete shift. And that's how you dissolve the illusions of the past. Because even though you may still have the memories of the past in you, you look at them from a new perspective. They don't bother you anymore. You validate them. You let them be, because without them, you wouldn't have been able to make that jump into that other time, into the timeline you prefer anyway. So that's how you dissolve the illusions of the past. But one thing I want to touch on is very important. If you still have the memories of an old timeline between your ears, and you still believe that that's who you are, and you still allow those memories and those connections to those parallel selves that you don't prefer to connect to anymore to define you, then it still affects your brain and your biology the same way as if you are still that person. So it doesn't matter whether you've jumped or not. If you still believe, now the word believe, I emphasize that because our beliefs create our reality. Our beliefs, are the blueprint level of our physical mind. Our perception is our power. So if you believe that you are still defined by those memories, then your brain and body will reflect those beliefs. So you have to really disconnect from those memories. You have to learn what you learn from them and just let them go. To forgive truly is to forget, isn't it?
Right.
When you can be brand new in each moment, that's when you know you're free. When you know you're a new self each and every moment, and each and every moment you get to choose what version of yourself you prefer to be. You can either keep connecting to the past if you wish, the past that's between your ears, or a different version of the past, whatever, or you can create a vision of the future and connect to that instead. That's the choice we have. And I think in the Bible too, I don't know if you know of this story, but Lot's wife was told, do not look back when God was going to destroy, the city. It's allegorical, of course, but Lot's wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. And she couldn't go with Lot because she kept looking back instead of forward. So the key is to really focus on a vision of the future, build a future self, and connect with that daily. And that's what I teach people as well. I've actually got a future self builder on my website where I take people through 7 steps where you can design a blueprint for the higher self, surrender it to it, and then just, embody that state each and every moment.
Wow. And would you be able to tell us the 7 steps? Or
Let's see if I know them off by heart because they're on
okay.
a blog. I'll try. Okay. Let me see. So obviously, the first step is you've got to know exactly what you want and who you wish to become. You've got to have clarity, okay? You've got to gain clarity. You've got to know what you want. If you don't know what you want, then you can't create a clear intention. Without a clear intention, you're just living via randomness. You're just letting life happen to you rather than, influencing your life consciously. So that's the number 1 step. Once you truly know who you wish to become, the second step is acceptance. It's to accept the reality you're in now. It's to accept that the experience and the vision of yourself that you are in this moment is a reflection of how you've created your life so far. And it's okay, even if you don't like it at the moment, even if it's something you don't prefer, that's okay. Just try and accept it as much as you can. Accept everything that's happened to you and just allow yourself to be where you are, because if you're in resistance to the current energies, if you're in resistance to your current self, then you can't change, because you can't change something you don't accept, you don't acknowledge. So that's step 2. And what's step 3? Step 3 is now you have to choose how far up the time scale you wish to go. But you can connect to any future self. It can be a future self in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 20 years' time, in 50 years' time, if you live that long, who knows? It's up to you. You get to choose. Generally, when first doing this, I tell people just a year or 2, just to get into the practice of doing it. But it's up to them, obviously. So once you've chosen your time scale, step 4 is I have a bunch of questions that I get people to answer. It's questions such as, what has your future self achieved that you haven't, that this version of yourself you are now hasn't already? How do they wake up each morning? How do they go to bed feeling each night? What are they doing? What is their purpose? What is their passion? And so on. Just a lot of different questions to really narrow down what their future self is. It's like molding clay. With these questions, you're getting a visual representation of what it is. So after they've answered all those questions, that's step 4. Step 5 would be overcoming the emotions of the old self. So in order to connect to your future self, you've got to first and foremost overcome the emotions of the old self. Now, this doesn't mean you have to do that permanently because, is that even possible? I don't know. But at least temporarily, while you're doing this process, you've got to change your state. Okay, so you've got to just, if you're feeling any resistance to the process you're in, just learn to accept them feelings and just be with them, be present, and so on. That's step 5. Because once you've overcome them emotions, then you can move into meditation. And I get people to lay down and meditate, usually, but if you prefer to sit up, that's okay. Um, Meditate, obviously, and now that you know how far up the time scale you want to go, you know who you want to be, you've molded the clay, so to speak, you've really refined your future self, and so on. You've got that vision ready, that clear intention ready. Now you're going to go into meditation. You're going to enter the quantum field. You're going to connect to your greater self, and you do that by getting beyond yourself. You've got to get beyond your physical self and connect to your higher self in meditation. And you do that by learning how to still yourself. Just become nothing. When you become no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time, as Joe Dispenza says, I love that. you, you're able to visualize and connect with emotionally your future self. Okay, so you connect with it emotionally, as Bashar also says. I like to combine these two teachers, message, because I think they really complete each other. Joe Dispenza's more relatable because he's human, first and foremost. Bashar is just like a wizard from some other world, but you can put them together and you can create a really, really good model of reality. But so yeah, you're going to visualize situations of you being that future self, visualize what they'd be doing and how you'd be feeling if you were that version right now. Okay, and just feel, and I emphasize the word feel because the feeling is the secret. Our emotional body is 5,000 times more magnetic than our mental body, up to 5,000 times. The heart has an electromagnetic field that's 5,000 times stronger than the brain. That's because our feelings are more magnetic than our thoughts. So a lot of people say your thoughts create your reality. Of course they do. But what does Bashar say is the result of a belief? He says it's a feeling. You can't feel anything without believing something to be true. So if you're feeling it, it means you truly believe it. Seeing isn't believing, feeling is believing, So once you connect to that future self emotionally, the 7th step is to just drop that image, drop the visualization, and stay in that state as much as you can. Stay in that state as much as you can. Get up out of the meditation and live your day as that future self emotionally. And of course, at first, you're going to be tested. Your current reality isn't going to change straight away. You're going to be reminded of the bills you've got to pay and, all other stuff that's in your reality. But you've just got to, it's a practice, of course. The more you do it, the better you get. And the more you become familiar with the feeling of that future self, the easier it'll be to connect with it emotionally. So if you just keep doing that over and over and over again, one day you will wake up as that future self a lot sooner than you would have if you didn't go up the time scale and do that. So it's actually shortening the process. You're bringing the future to you closer and closer. If you chose a future self in 2 years' time, for example, it may only take a year to get there if you keep doing this, if you're consistent, of course. And that's why my slogan is to be the future. Just be the
I
future now.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
And what I mean by that is to be your future self. So yeah, I've been teaching a lot of people this process and they love it.
I love it. This is great, Ray Ray. And I love it because it's like be the change you want to see. Because it be your
Exactly, yeah, it's the same thing. But
right.
yeah, you've got to be more detailed though. You have to be detailed and specific with what you wish to become. A lot
Right.
of people lack clarity, and that's just the truth. A lot of people are just waiting for good things to happen to them.
Yeah, people don't want to do the work. I find
No,
like
no.
I used to go watch Marianne Williamson because she was live in LA.
Mm.
And she would be so magnetic and powerful and tell everybody how to do it. And then for themselves. And then at the end, she would do questions, and I would always have to leave because people would be like they just wanted her to do it for them.
Yeah.
And she was awesome. She would put them, she would be nice, but she would be like, "Are you doing the workbook?" And everybody would say no. And
Mm.
yeah, it's so interesting. But I mean, I was that way too. I wanted Ibrahim and Bashar to do it all for me.
That's
And
what Bashar always asks people, doesn't he, in the questions and answers? Are you following the formula? And
right,
they say, and if they hesitate, he says, hesitation usually means no.
right, right,
he always asks them, are you following the formula? I'll be honest, I think I'm following the formula probably 80% of the time. I'm not
right,
100% there yet, but it's still, like I'm about to, me sci-fi novels about to be released. I'm working with cartoon drawers, like professional ones, who are drawing on
right,
my characters and bringing my imagination to life. This reality I'm building is pretty awesome now,
right,
So, but I know that it would go up a level if I added that extra 20%. But
right,
there's still a few
right,
habits that I've got to let go of,
right,
which we all have work to do still. So,
right. And it never ends. But I saw Bashar live, and I felt like I was doing the um the formula about 80% as well.
yeah.
And I went to go see him, and I said it was at a I've seen him in private as well, but this was a live event where
Mm.
there were other people. And I said I'm doing the formula, and I'm not seeing it yet. And 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 he admitted I was, which was great. And he
Yeah.
said, just keep doing it. He said, he's like, keep writing and writing and writing and writing. And he said, you're taking the old you and the new you and blending it together to make a third you. And
Yeah.
I asked him a bunch of questions that had to go with that. And it's recorded. Like people have contacted me that they heard that one. And
Yeah.
then because I say my name in it, I said my name in it. Because I asked if I should change my name. Because I have my middle name is Primrose, and I have a friend who's a big marketer. And
Mm.
he's always like, you need to just go as Primrose. And I said to Bashar, should I make that third person's name Primrose? And he was like, no, it doesn't matter. I love, he's very curt with me. And he said at one point because somebody else asked why he's so curt with me. And he said it's because I can take it. Like some people he's softer with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Of
and
course.
he's very curt with me. At one time when I saw him private, it was three people and I was in the middle, and he like let into me to where my best friend was like moving his energy over. He was so like overwhelmed by like us just being in the room and him like being curt with me. But I love it. That's what I love about him because
Mhm.
I want to get there. I don't want you to soften things to me. I want you just to tell me. But anyway, so then the woman after me, she was in she was in the middle of her question, and Bashar said, I was all the way around into my seat, and he was like, to the last person. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, oh, more will unfold. More will unfold. I'm sorry to be so cryptic, but more will unfold. Just keep writing. It was so
Mhm.
cool that he like cut the other one off and told me that. I loved it. It
Mhm.
was so cool. But I have done that, and I have blended those people, and I feel really good about where I am right now.
That's
So
good.
yeah.
I always say to people, if you're happy with who you are right now, then you don't even need to create a future self if you don't want to. I mean, everyone has the choice whether they want to
Right,
improve or they want to just settle where they are. It's up to them.
right,
There's no pressure at all. It's just about learning how to flex your creative muscles, I guess, and
right,
taking
right.
responsibility.
And
Yeah.
I have done a lot of work on future self stuff. Did you ever hear of Burt Goldberg? I used to listen to him a long time ago, and he would have you visualize going down these stairs, like 21, 20, 19,
Oh
and
yeah.
count down from 21, and then you would get there, and your future self would be there. And
Mm.
I always saw my future self and was like, that's not what I want to be. And now I am that version. It's really funny because I wanted to be like more of a party girl. Full disclosure, I got sober too. And what I was doing that when I was a party girl, and that's like what I wanted to do. Not a party girl, but I put fun before expanding in a lot of ways.
Well,
So
expanding is fun. I bet you.
now I like it.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
expanding way more than
mhm,
that now. It's so interesting.
yeah,
It's funny that the version I would see, I pictured taffeta and like, like, and it was just like this serious woman, and it's interesting that I saw that anyway. But I think I will always do future work because I
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're committed to your growth and your development, then you should,
yeah,
because if you want to keep improving, there's always room for improvement, no matter who you become. You can never be the finished article. And that's the beautiful thing,
right,
because consciousness never stops expanding. The source is expanding forever. And so are we, because we are the source ultimately. So,
right.
yeah. I sometimes imagine my future self just walk through into my living room and just sit down on the couch with me and I'm just talking to him in my mind. If I'm ever unsure about something, I visualize just having a conversation with my future self and asking him how did I get there? How did I get there?
Mm,
That's a good permission slip. If you're in the right state, you'll channel your future self in the responses.
I love that.
Yeah.
I went to a therapist once. It was a psychotherapist. I was getting hypnotized for something.
Oh yeah.
And he asked me if I talk to myself, and I said sometimes, and he said the most intelligent people do talk to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of why I'm single because I want to talk to myself. But there's a new TV show on Roku. It's really funny. It's only 10 minutes long, and it's this woman who talks to a doll, but it's really her.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I love it. But okay, so what I have not done that I love that you talk about is the getting rid of the past. And we just talked about that a lot, about not focusing it, not staring on it. You're gonna fall into a pillar. But what do you feel about, like, there's stuff in my past that I wanna let go of. I wanna really let
Okay.
go of. And I feel like I have. I've done a lot of work to let go of it. And but it's like, do I forget it altogether? Like, that's interesting to me.
No, it's not like you'll know as Bashar. I know we keep referencing Bashar, but it's because we're both
We both
admirers
know.
of him. So
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
why I'm saying this to you, because I know you'll know what I'm saying. You'll know what you need to know when you need to know it. So in the sense that your memories too will pop back when you need them.
Right.
Something that happened to you 10 years ago might end up saving you next week.
And they
And you may not even like. Have you ever just something that happens to you in the present moment sometimes just triggers a memory that you haven't thought of for like years and years and years. Have you ever had that? Where like just
often, yeah.
yeah, like so it's not about just like what I mean by getting rid of, okay, maybe that's not the right terminology because you can't really get rid of anything because everything's already happened in the sense that all the memories you have will still exist in some reality. It may not be the timeline you're on now, but it will still exist. So it's already happened. It's about not allowing them to define you anymore. That's the key. So if something it keeps haunting you, it keeps coming back and you're reminded and it's something that you've done and you've got regrets or maybe someone hurt you or mistreated you in the past, then you need to look at it from a different perspective. That's how you're going to deal with it. You're going to change the definition of that memory. I say memory, but it's actually a parallel self. You've got to redefine that parallel self.
I
You've got to
love
look at
that.
that. Yeah, you've got to look at it from a different perspective. So instead of, hating yourself for the wrong decision you made or the way you mistreated someone, or, defining yourself as a victim or something for something somebody done to you. Maybe you were cheated on or whatever. Just look at it from a more of an educational standpoint. Ask yourself, what the hell was the universe trying to teach me here? And what is it teaching me? Because if it keeps coming up, then it's still got something to show me. Nothing goes away until it's taught you what it needs to teach you. Nothing. So if it's not gone away yet, it means you're not done. You're not done with that experience. You're still having it over and over and over again because you're connecting to that parallel self, having that experience on an emotional level. So it's about redefining that memory and changing your perspective of it. That's how you can make peace with the past. And I know I say the past is an illusion, and these are illusions of the past. But as I said, if they still are triggering you, they're going to affect your brain and biology, the same way as if you are still that old self. Because all those memories that do haunt you belong to that old self. And until you're free of them, you won't be able to step into the ever new self. And I say ever new self because you are a new self each and every moment when you live in the present moments to the best of your ability. Like, the past literally has no more power over you. No more power over you. That's the state you want to get in. That's everyone's natural state. And we can tap into it whenever we want. So, yeah, if there's something that's in your mind and it's haunting you, just pull yourself back a little. See the forest from the trees and be like, okay, what is this showing me? Look at you're a comedian, yeah. I've seen you on stage with your mic, a lot of jokes and so on. That's cool. But like, imagine you're sitting in the audience watching yourself doing that. You're a member of the audience instead of, you're not on the stage anymore. You're sitting in the audience watching yourself do that. And do that for all of those memories that are haunting you. If they are. And
Right. This is so good. Full disclosure, I was physically abused by my dad.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a comedian, I can kind of laugh about it. I'm very blessed about that. I also need to talk. I've done work where I've talked to myself at that age, and I know I helped myself. I went back and helped myself at that time.
Yeah.
And but I've done a lot of work on it, and I feel like I'm really good with it. But what you're talking about is just even as kind of makes it go like that in a way that I haven't been able to do before, to really let it go. I feel like I've done a great job letting it go, but I'm kind of like holding on just a little bit. And I feel like,
you know what it is, though? You know what the holding on a little bit really is? Take away the memory, take away the event, take away the situation that happened. It's how it made you feel that is connecting you to it. Because every time you think of that memory or you see it repeat in your head, you feel the same way as you did when it happened. So the key is to overcome that emotion. Strip everything away from that emotion and just feel the emotion on its own. Don't define it in relation to what happened to you. Just allow that emotion to be and let it flow through you. Because emotions are just energy in motion. If you're in resistance to them, you create blockages in your emotional body. But if you learn to just accept and let it flow, you will release them.
Right, thank you.
But also, if you do redefine the memory, and instead of defining yourself as a victim but a victor, by learning what you needed to learn from that situation, then you'll start to feel better about it too. Even though, of course, that's horrific. Being abused by your father as a little girl, oh my God, there's not many things worse than that to experience. But as you grow up, you can look back at that experience and use it as contrast, because you know what it feels like to be in that situation. You know what it feels like to be at the wrong end of that situation, to be hurt and abused by the man who supposedly loves you more than anyone else in the world,
Yeah.
and you can use that as contrast. You can say, okay, I'm not going to do that to anyone. I'm not going to make anybody feel like that when I get older. And if you have done that, then you've already learned what you needed to learn.
Right.
You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? It's like
Yeah.
someone who has an abusive parents, and the parents, it may not just be physical abuse or sexual abuse, but just a horrible parent in general, someone who just hates and loathes them. But they have children themselves when they grow up, and thanks to the contrast that they experienced as a result of those horrible memories and situations they had when they were a kid, they know the right way to raise their child because they know how it feels to be on the wrong end of that situation.
Right.
Know what I mean? So they're using
Right.
it in the correct way.
I always said that I wasn't gonna have children because I heard that's how you forgive your parents, and I didn't want to forgive them. But that's a joke. But I feel like I
I'm
feel like
just gonna say, thank God. Like I'm like, why am I even talking to this woman? I'm joking. Only joking.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah, I love that. I love it. Yeah, I'm determined to be one of the happiest. I don't want to be happier than other people, but I want to be as happy as possible that I can. So I'm all like, every day night I look at like what did I use to not let myself be happy today? Like what belief and how can I excavate that?
Well, what's the key to happiness for you? Tell me what you believe the key to your happiness is.
Being in the moment as often as I could during the day and not taking things too seriously
Yeah.
and being of service to other people.
While that is all great, and of course will definitely help prolong a state of happiness and well-being and so on, the key really for me is to be happy, like have a state of happiness, learn how to be happy and joyful without depending on anything to happen to you, without depending on outer circumstances. you
Right.
know
I do. I
like
really do that. I was
yeah,
dating somebody and they said that they couldn't be happy that we I was like, oh, we can celebrate Biden's in office. I don't want to get political, but it was just an example.
yeah,
And they were like, I'm not going to be happy until Biden was elected, and they were like, I'm not going to be happy until Biden is in office. I'm like, you can't be happy now. Like, I want to be happy now. And that is how I feel. Like if I'm not happy, I can be happy now and look forward to the new thing. So
mm.
I do that. I do watch my words and not say I'll be happy when. I like to say I'm happy now.
We're all in the process together. We're all moving along together, expanding together. um of course, even I still have to realign myself sometimes. It's just part and parcel of it, but the key, of course, isn't whether you're going to fall back into the old self or not, because everyone does. It doesn't matter who you are. I don't care who you are. Everybody does it, right? That's not a problem. It's how long you stay in the old
Right.
self. That's the issue. Joe Dispenza calls it the refractory period. If you're triggered by something, you're angry because Trump's just been in office, put in office, or something. Or what? I'm not political or American, by the way, but just as an example, and the entire time while Trump is in office, you are just pissed. You're mad. You're angry. That's 4 years of you living in that state of being, and that molds you as a person. That's who you've become. And even if Biden comes in and takes him out, you're still going to be him, that person. You're still going to be angry. You're still going to be, whatever. The refractory period is the time that you're triggered into that state.
Mm,
People say, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm moody." Something happened to me the other day, and I just can't shake this emotion off. That's the refractory period. Learning how to shorten that. So noticing, becoming conscious of when you're not in your preferred state, you're not connected to the future self that you want to be emotionally, and just learning how to jump back, to keep going back to the future. You don't need a DeLorean to do it. The
right.
time machine's in your mind. If you know how to do it properly, then you can just keep going back to the future. And that's what I'm teaching people now. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it, Ray Ray. I like this is you've taught me so much. And
And
and reframed things that I love. And
yeah, I mean, a lot of people, what I like to do is simplify this thing, this process. It's a lot easier, and people do it without me even needing to tell them, this process. A lot of people already have an inspiration or connect to a future self, to just have a thought about who they want to be. And some people just are really good at it naturally. They just get it. Like Muhammad Ali said, if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can definitely achieve it. And how beautiful is that? If my mind, my thoughts can conceive it, so conceive the idea, the vision of the future self, and my heart can believe it, I can feel as if I am that future self now, then I can definitely achieve it, you know.
I
So
love it.
even he back in the 60s, 50s, or whatever period he was living, was saying this, it's not a new teaching. It's just the way I'm presenting it is in a different format, yeah.
Yeah, it's in a very simple, beautiful way. I love it.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Is it how can people find you?
I have a website, www.reirei.co.uk. That's REIREI .co.uk. On there, you can read a lot of blogs. You can see my videos, and there's ways you can purchase some of the things that I offer. The Future Self Builder, the astrology readings as well, because I'm also an astrologer. So I've been doing starseed astrology reports for people,
Oh,
connecting them to showing them the connections in their chart to different star systems as well, different parallel lives that they're living in other star systems, because we're just talking about the future and past selves of our current incarnation, but we've also got future and past selves in different incarnations as well, happening simultaneously. That's a whole other discussion and a whole other level,
right.
But yeah, that
Well, maybe
exists too.
we'll do another episode on that one day.
If you want, yeah, that's fine. Did you ever watch that Bashar show? The what was it called? Your ET Neighbors.
No.
No, he done one last year called Your ET Neighbors, and he spoke of the Blue Men, right? And it's this civilization that a portion of the civilization learned how to change themselves into pure energy instead of having a physical body, just pure energy. And they look blue. It's just like a blue silhouette of a being. This is their appearance, a blue silhouette of a male being with no facial features. You can barely see the face and everything. And they come and have been connecting to humanity for a while on an individual level. And when I had my awakening in 2010, shortly after I stopped taking all those drugs and everything, I had a huge Kundalini awakening that come out my body, had an OBE, and I saw one of those beings standing next to me. And he kept dissolving his body and reappearing in different places. And ever since then, he's come to me like 4 or 5 times. And yeah, just yesterday, I watched your ET Neighbors, just yesterday, because I'd not seen it before. I'd never heard anyone speak about these blue men. I don't know what they are, to be honest. I've never have, but I know they're not of this world, not even of this dimension, really. But I watched that your ET Neighbors, and Bashar described them perfectly. Everything I experienced, he described in that transmission. But he didn't say where they're from, and that annoyed me because I want to know where exactly they're from. He didn't say what star system they're from. But I know that blue man that keeps coming to me is my future self as well.
Ooh, I
I
love
know
it.
it's me. I know it's me because the moment I saw him, I knew him. There's
Right.
just a knowing. I mean, most people, if an alien just stood in front of you, you'd be like, whoa, okay. Your fight or flight
Right.
survival instinct would just go boom. But with me, it was just like, whoa, I know you.
Right.
I know you.
He, it's interesting because he told me that when I was 16, I was abducted a bunch,
Hmm.
and that I wasn't scared because they seemed familiar. Familiar.
Exactly. And he does say around 97% of the time you have an experience with an ET, whether it's an abduction or it's a transcendental moment where you connect to them like I did. It's your future self or past self coming to you. You're connecting to a different version of yourself in
Mm.
that moment. So
Yeah.
that's probably why he said that to you as well. You
Right.
abducted yourself.
Right. I did. Right. I bet. That's right. That's beautiful. Yeah, I did. Is it the one where he said 250, there were 258 million of them and they all meditated together to open up to come to a different world? Was it that one?
I'm not sure. I'm
Oh,
not sure.
it's
I can't remember him saying anything like that, but
yeah,
yeah.
interesting. All right, well, this has been great. Thank you so very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me. It was really fun speaking to you.
yeah, it's delightful speaking to you, and I hope we do it again soon. Have a great day.
Yeah, no problem. Take care now. Bye, everyone.
Bye. That was great. Thank you so much. I loved it. You're fantastic. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Here's a little bit of advice I want to give you because I
Yeah.
noticed your podcasts don't have many views. Okay. Now, on Facebook, obviously, they limit how many people see your posts and everything now. But
Uh-huh.
here's the key: join a lot of Facebook groups, okay? Like spiritual ones, like Bashar's one.
Hmm.
Join a lot of them, right? And then instead of posting the link to the video directly into the group, post it in the comment section of all the posts instead. You get
Ooh.
way more hits. I promise you. Okay, but here's the
Ooh.
key: don't spam it in the admin's posts though. Know when you're looking on the post and you can see whether it's an admin of the group. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you can tell whether it's an admin of the group that's posted or whether it's just a normal person. Don't post it in the admin's
Okay.
post, just in everybody else's, and you'll get a lot more views on your videos, and you'll get more subscribers too. I've got like 40 or 50 in the last week doing this.
That's great.
Subscribers,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's
So yeah,
fantastic. Thank you. That helps me a lot. Yeah, I'm not good at marketing.
no, neither am I, but I'm an author too, so I've found a way to override this dreadful Facebook algorithm that just keeps
Right.
limiting everything. It's annoying. So yeah, that's the best way to do it. How can I download this video?
I'll send it to you. It's going to come to me on Zoom. Oh, do you want to? Oh, you sent me your email. So I'll email it to you.
Yeah, okay then, no problem. Thanks for your time. It was really fun.
Thank you. Super fun. Thank
Take
you.
care.